Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is David Chesney, White Rock, BC City Councillor and editor of the White Rock Sun. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you very much, Jim. Nice to be back with you.
The federal election, I guess, is being overshadowed by a brand new thing for Canada, the TransPacific Partnership, a $1 trillion deal that involves about 40% of the planet's population, 12 countries, including Canada. It's a giant trade bloc. The negotiations have been secret, and details of the deal are finally being released after it was signed over the weekend. But, we're still wondering what are the implications, and a lot of the stuff will be phased in over, it seems, mostly over a 15-year period, so it doesn't hit you right away. The Prime Minister says it's good for Canadian jobs. Critics like Elizabeth May from the Green Party are calling this a secret deal, that it is not in the best interests of Canadians. It has a lot of regulations that allow corporations to overrule environmental regulations your country may have. That's a big fear. David, what's your take on the Trans-Pacific Partnership?
Well, I think as you indicated, and as Elizabeth May is now on record, I had been aware that there was a deal being put together, which obviously Canada and the U.S. are signatories on it. I have to be very honest with you. It was only an hour or so ago, or a couple hours ago, when I heard the news and the excitement crackling on CBC radio that the deal had been signed. I have not had a chance to have a read of it, to be very honest with you. So I really, I couldn't make any type of intelligent comment on this deal until I've had a chance to have a read of it, and that probably was something I'll do in the next day or so. Now that it's been made public, the fact that it was made public a couple of hours ago, and I imagine it's a document that could choke a horse, so I'll wait for some of the experts to decipher it and pull out the Coles Notes version and have a look at it. But as I said to you off air, more often than not, when Canada is sitting at the table, I'm sure that the weight of the vote and the impact is based upon your country's population. So I've got an idea. I have to figure that Canada will probably, in a lot of cases, end up receiving the short end of the stick on this one, but I will reserve final judgment until I have a chance to make an informed opinion based on what's now been released.
Well, apparently one of the things the agreement does is remove subsidies to the CBC. And of course, Prime Minister Harper has hated the CBC and has wanted to blow it up for some time. Very true.
Very true. That is one thing that I saw that somebody put out on the wire this morning, is that under this trade deal, it could possibly have a negative impact, other than the fact that the government may no longer be able to subsidize a public broadcaster, that they may be forced to take on advertising and to go it alone based on the revenues of advertising, like every other radio station in North America, with the exception of NPR in the U.S. I don't know how they would obviously be under the same effect as CBC, I would think.
Farmers will get a $4.3 billion income guarantee for the next 15 years, but we will allow more imports of milk, eggs, and other dairy products. They say it'll be minuscule. It won't really hammer Canadian farmers, although my uncle is a rancher, and he can tell you the kind of margins that he works on right now, desperately narrow. And the difference in price, what he gets for a steer and what you pay for a steak, are two different things.
Well, being this close to the border here in South Surrey, White Rock, it's been a time-honored tradition of people going across, in particular to a big dairy just outside of Linden, south of Aldergrove, to pick up their cheese and milk. I've never bothered, but from what I understand, now that the Canadian dollar has dropped, it may not be such a good deal, but I'm under the impression that somebody could go down there and buy basically a gallon of milk for about half the price of what they pay in Canada, or less.
Canada's 6.1% tariff on imported vehicles will be phased out over 5 years, and domestic content requirements for autos will be slashed from the 60% now required under the North American Free Trade Agreement. That's bad news for Ontario's auto manufacturing sector. Not a big impact in BC, where we don't make cars.
Oh, I'm sure the blowback is probably starting to to roar out there right now, and now that people have had a chance to have a look at this. I would have to assume some of the major industries were consulted. I would hope that they were prior to this agreement, but we'll see. We'll see how the auto industry, if that figure, and I have no reason to doubt it that you quoted it directly. You're right. This could cause major concerns for the automakers in Canada.
Now, Ed Fast, the minister in charge, the trade minister, says we don't anticipate there will be job losses, although there will be job adjustments. In other words, they're not looking at the individuals, they're just looking at the numbers. But for the people who lose their jobs because of this, what's their prospects?
Right.
We'll have more with David Chesney right after this.
More and more people are looking to the internet for intelligent, riveting, and thought-provoking interviews. To advertise on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com, call 604-699-8600, 604-699-8600.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're speaking with White Rock, BC City Councillor and editor of the White Rock Sun, David Chesney. David, what's your take on the federal election that's just really a few days away now?
Well, again, relating back to the specific area I live in, White Rock, South Surrey, the Conservatives, well documented, have what many would feel is a gold-plated candidate and former mayor of Surrey, Diane Watts, running for the vacated South Surrey White Rock seat here that was held by Russie Bear, who is leaving politics. So it looked like that was going to be a slam dunk and that this has been a conservative bastion for a number of years. But what I'm hearing on the street, and it's interesting what I've seen in the national press, this is one riding that they're now saying it's up for grabs. So we'll see how that I haven't had a chance to make it out to an all candidates meeting. I hope to start catching some of those this week. So we'll see what happens. The removal in our riding here of Joy Davies for the Liberal candidacy has been replaced now with former Surrey councillor, longtime Surrey councillor Judy Higginbotham. So the fireworks erupted right away between Judy and Diane Watts, and I think that they will only continue to ramp up as we get closer to the date, one would think. Pixie Hobby for the NDP is proving to be a very strong candidate, former federal environmental lawyer. So we've got some very strong candidates here. Larry Calero for the Green Party has run before. I don't want to discount the Green Party, but I think most people are feeling that even the Green Party supporters in the past are feeling that this is far too important an election. Everybody that I've talked to is sitting there waiting till the 11th hour to see how they're going to vote. And obviously the people that would like to see a change in government are waiting to see Liberal or NDP, whatever candidate in this market looks like they're going to be able to knock off Diane Watts and take control. I think that's where the votes are going to go. It'll be close. It'll be very close.
I was going to say, in other words, it reflects what's happening nationally, where once you take in the margin of error, it's a three-way dead heat.
Well, I don't, obviously I like to think nationally, but we have to act locally. We don't elect the president or the prime minister in Canada. We only have an opportunity to elect the representative for our riding. And I think more and more people, as much as the coffee table discussion may be about Harper's leadership and is Justin Trudeau ready, will Tom Mulcair be able to bring the votes? Will it be some kind of a coalition? There's all kinds of Friday morning quarterbacks out there that are trying to predict what's going to happen. But anybody that's underestimating the power of the Conservatives is woefully mistaken in this election, because they're very good at getting the vote out. And that's what it boils down to. At the UBCM, which I attended last week in Vancouver, the Union of British Columbia Municipalities, it was interesting. One of the resolutions passed by civic representatives was to request online voting in 2018. Well, shortly after that meeting was recessed in the lobby, I spoke with one of the MLAs in attendance, and they basically said that they couldn't understand why this was on the agenda. The provincial government has already made up their mind. There is not going to be any online voting, not anywhere in the foreseeable future. I don't think any parties really want to see online voting, is my feeling, because it's all about who can get the vote out. So do they want to bring 50% of the great unwashed into the picture? I don't think so.
Well, people under the age of 35, if it was online, they'd vote right now. Without a doubt.
That's possible.
Because, I mean, they vote and like things on Facebook every day. So, obviously, they would like somebody on election day. And then you have countries like Australia where it's the law that you have to vote. You're fined if you don't vote.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great idea. People don't realize how important their say is. And what politicians really hate is 40% or 30% turnout for the vote. And then people complain, well, that's not what I wanted. Well, you don't have much of a say if you don't put your vote in.
Maybe what we could do to encourage voting is when we do vote, we get, I think we've all been to nightclubs in our past where you wake up in the next morning and you've got a stamp on your hand that takes a Brillo pad to get off. Perhaps if we have some kind of indelible marker when we vote, we get a large X placed on our hands, and so the next day at work, we know exactly who voted and who didn't vote.
A free Big Mac.
Pardon me? A
free Big Mac or a Coke if you voted.
Yeah, I don't think we need to do that, but I mean, at every level of government, we see it, especially at the civic level, where there's such a low turnout, which has always kind of stuck in my craw, because it's the one level of government where changes can be affected very quickly on your everyday life, but that's the lowest turnout, and it goes up exponentially as we go to provincial. And the biggest turnout in any election in Canada is at the federal election, probably due to the media's attention across the board on the federal election. All levels of media certainly give a tremendous amount of attention, which they should, to the federal election. That the provincial and the civic level drop down as far as media coverage on those. So pretty hard for people. I think that's why we get a bigger turnout. There's far more media coverage of the issues and debates and national debates, et cetera, et cetera. So I can understand why we get more turnout at the federal. I'd just like to see, a similar kind of turnout at the civic and the provincial level.
With an older population, is the legalization of marijuana a big deal in White Rock?
I don't think so. I don't hear that as a hot topic at all.
What is the hot topic?
I don't know whether there's one defining hot topic. No, it's pretty hard for me to get a handle on that. I just think that the pros and the cons are very clearly divided. That the Conservative government will lead us for another 4 years into prosperity and good health and positive times. Whereas the people that are certainly anti-Harper are saying, no, it's time for him to go.
That he hasn't done much for job creation.
Well, the one thing that bothers me again is the lack of free votes. The Conservative Party has never allowed free votes. I do not want to support any kind of candidate that is not going to vote along the line of what they think will be the best for my community. That's why I sent them to Ottawa.
Is that the message a lot of Canadians would like to have for their MP? Represent me, not your party?
Well, I would hope so.
But of course, that's not what happens. MPs are told if you don't vote for us, you're kicked out of caucus and you lose your office.
Yep. Well, and the Conservative government has taken that to a whole new level. There have been no free votes under the Conservative government.
Well, they haven't even been showing up for all candidates meetings. The Conservative seat is empty.
Yeah. Well, we've seen that. There was one all candidates meeting that the Conservative representative, the aforementioned Diane Watts, did not attend. There was one she did attend that was held in a private school here in Surrey, Southridge. She was at that. All of the candidates were there at that meeting, but she chose not to attend one of the other ones, and we'll see how her record goes as we go into the rest of the all candidates meetings.
David, thanks a lot for chatting with us.
Well, my pleasure.
My guest has been David Chesney, White Rock, BC City Councillor and editor of the White Rock Sun. You're listening to The Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Comments about the show can be emailed to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on The Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.